friends. My name is Shawne Arceneaux, but you can call me Shawne. I'm a board-certified nurse coach and holistic healer, and I want to help you transform your life in a way that feels in total alignment with your heart and who you truly are. Each week, I'll be sharing with you my tips on how to become more empowered in your own wellness journey and create a vibrant, fulfilling life that reflects your values and your truth. You'll hear insightful interviews on different life and wellness topics and stories from myself and other beautiful souls who share my mission of spreading love and light in this sometimes dark world. My hope for this podcast is that you will walk away feeling inspired and more aligned in your purpose. This is your permission to get curious and lean into your intuition as we all learn and grow together. Welcome to the Aligned and Well podcast. Hey, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aligned and Well podcast. It is Shawne here. I am super excited to be interviewing a friend of mine who, it's funny because we actually met through a mutual friend, and you ended up editing my podcast for quite a while. But we're not actually going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about some really, we'll probably talk about it, but we're going to talk about myofascial release today. So my friend Sue, she has been helping humans behind the scenes since 2008, whether it's with alignment in the body or within their business. She has many unique skills that help humans grow and evolve. And I think that's one thing that we do have in common here is that we are so multi-passionate, and you do so many different things in your business. But I'm just gonna stop talking and let you kind of introduce yourself to listeners here, Sue.
Oh, thanks, Shawne, for having me on the show. It is such an honor to be here. And it was such an honor to edit your show while you were pregnant and then having a baby. And so I love how we met through that avenue and talk about my first career, I guess, a little bit that we haven't really discussed together. So that's but yeah, so my name is Sue Ruhe. It's true, it rhymes.
I love you. That's the perfect Hollywood. Whenever people in Hollywood change their name to something really catchy, that's what I think of when I hear your name.
I used to not like it. I didn't. People used to laugh at me in high school, and it's as I've grown up, I've learned to embrace it. So
yeah.
I'm just up here in Canada, and I'm a mother of a 12-year-old daughter. I can't believe she's 12. That's crazy. And I, like I said, or like you said, in 2008 was kind of when I started my entrepreneurial journey. I went to school for massage therapy and graduated in 2008. And then found myofascial release that same year, that summer. And I'll explain a little bit about what that is in a bit. But it was one of those moments in my life where I was like, I have found it. And it was I found the modality, the technique that I know I can help people feel better in a better way, in a bigger way. And it wasn't as popular back then as it is now. It's very popular now, and which I'm glad. So I did that up until 2019 when we moved into this place. And in 2019, I sort of felt like I couldn't wear all the hats anymore. I couldn't be the therapist. I couldn't be the mom. I couldn't be the general contractor and the house cleaner. So I needed to just step away. So I was 11 years into my career when we bought this house. And I was scraping walls. There was layers and layers of wallpaper on 2 floors of this house. And I was listening to podcasts. And that was when I was like, I want to start a podcast. I want to teach people about fascia. And so I just did it.
Yeah.
And my first podcast is called Love Yourselves, and it's
Yeah.
still out there.
I love that. Oh my
I-
God. I'm going to have to look that up after. I did not know that you had one. I knew about your other one with Marcia, but yeah.
Yeah, so I started that one, and it's really funny. Like, there was no intro, there was no editing. I had no idea what I was doing. But I've left it there because I'm a big fan of like measuring growth.
Oh,
right?
totally. Yeah.
So if I were to go back and listen to episode 1 to 5, because it was just very like scripted and I just threw it out there, I would probably delete them. So
Yeah.
I just refuse to go back and listen.
I know. I haven't gone back and listened to my first like few episodes.
I'd be so embarrassed, but that's, the measure of growth. And there's a lot of really good interviews on that show. Actually, our mutual friend is on that show twice.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. Okay, I will have to go listen.
I'll send you the link so you can throw it in the show notes. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that's how I got into podcasting, because I just loved doing the back end of it. I loved building podcasts, creating the graphics, and then I learned how to edit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I love this because I get to be home, I can fold laundry and be editing at the same time.
Yes.
Clinic, I couldn't even touch a phone, right? I was hands-on all day long for 5 days a week, and
Yeah.
you kind of lose energy there. So now I'm at the point, because we made it through that whole lockdown time where I was banned for. So now I do like a little bit of everything. So I have myofascial clients, mobile and here, and I work on podcasts. I learned how to create books. That's my latest venture.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs who want to write a book that don't want to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a publisher. Like, I teach people how to.
Love it.
I know. And and I do a lot of volunteer work because we are very involved in golfing. I learned how to golf. You can kind of see I'm like, that's where I'm leaving after this interview. Not very good, but it's like my 4-hour walk in nature. So.
Yeah. My husband loves to golf, and that's like, he's like, it's a lot of walking.
Burn a lot of calories, and I find it like a stress relief because I get to smash balls through the forest. But our daughter's really involved in it, and so I'm here. We're really close to the club, so it's like I might as well volunteer while she's still of the age where we can, create good things and good events for the kids, because like that's of the club, right? So. Yeah, I guess I do it all, and like I said in the bio, and what you just shared, that I like help people behind the scenes. Like, that's where I thrive. I'm not one to be showing my face all over social media all the time. I don't like that. I like helping people with their bodies, with their tech stuff, with their writing stuff. And that's just where I thrive, is like that support, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What's your human design again? I forgot. Are you a Manny Gen too?
I'm not a Manny Gen.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm a 5-2 generator, though.
Yeah.
The hermit side of me, which is where I like to like be, is kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about human design, but
that's a rabbit hole. The amount of like human design rabbit holes I've gone down with like just people on this podcast.
Really popular,
Yeah. Well, okay, because there's so many different aspects that we could like touch on here, but I kind of want to go, because whenever you were talking about finding myofascial release after you graduated from massage therapy school, there was like this moment that you were talking about that like, I found it. How did you know? What told you this is it? This is the modality that I'm meant to serve people with?
Okay, there was a bunch of little moments, but I'm going to share this one that's popping in my head right now. Where I live, I had to take the train 2 hours to the city where the conference was being held. It was a weekend course, right?
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I went into the course, and it's the hotel massive conference halls,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where it was being held. And we all had our massage tables. And so it was just a room full of tables. There was probably like 100 and I want to say like 150 therapists. And at that point, it was mostly physiotherapists and chiropractors. I was like one of a handful of little massage therapists in the room. And not that like we learn less or anything. Like we did 2 years of human anatomy, biology, and physiology, all the things. But I was very new, right? So I remember walking into that room feeling a little intimidated. And I had had a treatment before I went and signed up. So I knew kind of what it felt like on my body. And that's how that was one of the things where I was like, okay, I need to learn this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the conference and we had to pair up with a therapist and work on each other's bodies for the different techniques that we were being shown. And I remember being on the table. Side note, I was a competitive Highland dancer my whole life. So like my glutes and hips, like I ended up having an emergency C-section because my hips were just and have always been so tight from dancing all those years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, I was on this table and the therapist that was working on me was a gentleman. His name was Robin. Always remember Robin. He was so great. And there was this technique where the elbow of the therapist is in like resting on our glute muscle, so our butt muscle. I'm laying face down and his elbow is in there and he has my leg and he's like rotating it side to side. And I can't really see. I'm like face down on the table, right? And all of a sudden, I started feeling what felt like bubbles just going down my leg, like all the way down to my knee, into my foot. And I was like, Robin, what are you doing? And he's just like chilling. He's like, nothing. I was like, what do you mean nothing? Like, I'm like looking back, like, what are you doing? Because I'm feeling this sensation and he's like, I don't know. But it was my fascia releasing from my glute minimus, which is like that little tiny muscle in the glute that like is underneath the glute max. That's like really hard to get to. But if you have like rotation issues of your femur, like you'll know what I'm talking about because if those are so tight, like you have no rotation. And that was the moment because I was like, how can this therapist be doing nothing and creating such a release deep inside my body
Yeah.
that I've never felt in my whole life? And I had just finished 2 years of school where we work on each other's bodies like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment where I was like, and it goes back to like less is more just on everything in life. I was like,
Yeah.
when people are like, when clients will come in and be like, I really need deep tissue. And I'm like, well, I don't really do that, but I get deep, but it's like this
Right.
beating up situation. But that was that was the moment on my body where I was like, this is it. So much impact can be created with very, very minimal effort from my hands. And like, just think about like that energy between his body and my body. And then like, I'll never forget that feeling of the bubbles.
Oh my God.
And when it happens to my clients, I'm like,
yeah. When you recreate the moment that like makes you remember like why you're here,
they're like, why does it feel like there's bubbles in my stomach? I'm like, just go home.
I love that. Okay. I love that you shared that moment because I always love hearing like just the I feel like every healer, every person that is in the healing space has a moment like that where they're like, this is what I'm meant to do. And so for people out there who don't know what myofascial release is, can we get into like kind of just like an overview of what that is? I mean, I know there's so many different types of massage techniques and those types of things. So I haven't had a myofascial release therapist on here. I've had massage therapists, but not anyone who specializes in that. So yeah, give us like a little overview.
Sure. Something I've explained many times, and I love it. So basically, we are made up of 37.2 trillion cells in our bodies. And
Golly, that's a lot.
just to be accurate,
Right.
every single cell in our body is wrapped in fascia. So fascia is this very thin layer. If you think of like saran wrap, okay, if you can picture saran wrap, it's very thin, but it's liquid and it's strong. It's like the polarity. Like, how is it strong, but how is it liquid? Like, it just whatever. We're just gonna go with that for now. That image. So every single cell is wrapped in fascia that wraps around all the other cells. So it's like the glue that holds us together. Okay. So the fascia inside of our brain, connecting our brain cells, is connected to our feet and into our organs. And all of that is connected. It's the biggest organ in the body. And so myofascial release is a technique where the therapist's hands, and ideally the client's body, does not have any lotion or oil on it.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to bypass that system. So in massage school, we were all taught always to have lotion or oil on our hands, and it's like the gliding and it's the moving and the pushing. This is the opposite. This is connect your hands to the body and you stick there. And the longer you wait, the more you liquefy that fascia and create change. So my movements of my hands, basically, so I could be, I work a lot in women's abdomens because many reasons, but
so much stored there.
And a lot of the body pain, like neck pain, jaw pain, is actually coming from our abdomen. So when I can release that, then like other areas of the body relax because it's all connected. So
yeah,
my hands could be in abdominal fascia for a whole hour and basically just like moving, like this would be like the max of my movements, right? Because I'll allow that fascia as it liquefies, it wants me to glide eventually. But it's waiting and listening and feeling when it's okay to move a bit.
Yeah.
And that, it takes a lot of patience to be a myofascial release therapist. And I think that's why when there's like a misconception that fascia work hurts, it's because that therapist is going a little too fast and creating that sort of like force. And just like everything else in life, we can't force it.
Yes, yeah. It sounds like a very like intuitive process too of like feel like, you know, rather than just like mimicking the movements and the techniques and that you logically know, like you really have to feel each individual person. And I'm curious to know how like what the spectrum is of how how do I phrase this question? So like is there a spectrum of like how fast the fascia releases in different people? Like do you notice patterns of what like who releases faster and slower, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And a great question because every body is different. Every body's been through different surgeries and injuries and things that go back to when you were 3 years old or even in the womb. Like it is a very intuitive, like you said, process. The biggest thing that I can identify in human bodies is whether you're dehydrated or not. to answer your question, if someone's very dehydrated, I can't really move fast at all. I like
Wow.
get stuck. It's like kind of like cement. I use the word cement a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who drinks, well, I like have my clients very well trained. They drink 2 to 3 liters, which is like almost a gallon of water a day. You can tell, like,
Yeah.
I can glide a lot easier in highly hydrated fascia, and fascia loves that hydration. And that just everyone knows that. Like, the more you drink water, the less your knee pain is, or your headaches go away, and like all of these little indicators of dehydration, right? So, to answer your question, yeah, the more hydrated someone is, the faster I can glide, and just like the more successful their treatment will be.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. That is so interesting because it's like such a, and like you said earlier, it's a very it's simple, but then it's also like really complex at the same time. So it's so interesting that way. Um,
Mhm.
ooh, what has been like your favorite, especially with body work? I feel like there could be these like really cool stories that you might have of like someone has a release and it causes like a big moment for them. Like what comes to mind whenever you think of that?
Mm, a lot. The the first sort of aha I had with the abdominal work, because the abdominal work was sort of an evolution of my trainings. So when we were in the courses, yes, I would have my hand, maybe one hand in the abdomen and the other hand on the thigh or the quad, but that would be the only sort of abdominal, whereas now I'm fully in it. Um, and I recorded a podcast. One of my very first podcast guests, her name is Danielle on the Love Yourselves podcast. She shares this story.
Mm-hmm.
She I helped her eliminate her anxiety from working in her belly.
Wow.
And she would have panic attacks. She
Yep.
would not have, not be able to sleep. She would have like those night terrors and stuff. And just intuitively, I was working on her body because she had like neck and shoulder pain. And I was like, let me just go into the abdomen. Like, you trust me. And here we go.
Yeah.
Oh. And because if our spine isn't aligned, we are like our nerves are not firing as like symmetrically as we want them to, right? So that can create some like anxious feelings, nervous feelings in the body. People with scoliosis, the correlation between anxiety and scoliosis is very connected. So she did have some deviations of her spine. Anyways, I was in her abdomen, and again, just like really slow, and she's breathing, and all of a sudden she starts feeling that anxiousness, like the butterflies, feeling like as if she's gonna have a panic attack. And she like looked at me and she's like, what are you doing? What are you on? Da, 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 da. And I can imagine it's sort of like the bubbles I felt, but just in a different feeling for her. And I was right around her psoas area. She was a very thin woman. And anyways, we kind of like go through, like, the butterfly feelings come up and they kind of dissipate and they come up again as I like slowly glide around. And then she gets off the table when we're done. Like, so she did cry, I think, a little bit. Most people cry when they're going through a release like that. And I usually cry first because I can feel that coming on. So it's okay. Sometimes we're just like, whoa, let's cry.
Oh my
Table,
God.
it's like, it's really fun. But she got off the table and she was like, oh my gosh, like I feel lighter, I feel taller. This feels weird. And I don't even know if she's had panic attack. This was years ago.
Yeah.
She's pregnant now, which is hilarious if she listens to this. But she didn't really have the anxiety anymore, like to that degree.
Yeah.
And so her body and her experience was really like, wow, like maybe I can help a lot of women with these these anxious feelings, and so that was one of my biggest ahas, and what pushed me to keep going and being like,
Yeah.
well, what is this? Like, are we just holding our breath all the time? Are we holding in all of our feelings here? Like, maybe.
Yeah. Totally. Probably. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. And for those people who don't want to go on antidepressants or anything like that, it's like I definitely was like, well, let's try this first, because you might
Yeah.
try, and then you can explore something else if it's not working. So
Yeah.
for her, she was and that's so funny. She has a podcast too. I was editing her show for a while there,
Yeah.
and then she's pregnant, so she's put it on the shelf a bit. But
Yeah.
anyways, it was a big moment for me.
Wow. Yeah, I think about, as you were telling that story, I just think about how much we do store in the body, right? Because I mean, I've been going through a somatic certification right now, and we're talking a lot about that. And and we store so much of it. Like, and it's so cool because I think there are so many different ways to have releases, right? Like there's what you're talking about, there's emotional releases, there's so many different ways um to address that, like whatever we're holding on to. Um
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is just so cool. I think like
Mhm.
that type of work, because it's so simple, like it's just you almost think about that and you're like, but it's too easy. Like it's not too easy, but because it's not easy work. Body work is not easy, but you're like, it can't be that simple,
Mhm.
right? People like I feel like as human beings, like we want to make things more complex than they are. And it could really take like one session, right?
Yeah.
To like really release a lot that you've been holding on to. So I just think that that's just a really cool modality.
Yeah, and the abdomen is like an area where, we're always so protective, and we don't really allow others. Like, I even remember with my spouse, like
Yeah.
early on, it was like, don't touch my stomach. Like, or I felt, I don't know, it's just a very the most vulnerable spot
Yeah.
in the body. And I think, it goes back to what you said about we hold, we store, and we protect ourselves. Like, that is where our protection is. And so it's not often addressed. Like, in most of my clients that come to me, I will ask, has anyone worked in your abdomen? And they always say no. So
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I know, it makes me think of like if we're thinking about like chakras, right? Like the solar plexus and the
sacral, the root.
sacral are like right there, right? Like the creativity and the power. And um I notice that whenever if I'm doing like a somatic session with a client and they feel something, like if we're doing a scan and they feel something in either of those two areas, it's so hard to move past it. I've noticed, right? Like, because if you're not connected to like your power, if you feel like lost in your creativity, if you don't feel connected to it at all, it's really hard to, because I feel like that's where I'm thinking about the times where I am not tapping into like my intuitive side. It's very heavily driven by like what I've been conditioned
Mm.
to be like. That's where I feel it in my stomach, like in my gut, and um
Mhm.
and so that's such an interesting, I love that's where you kind of focus. Do you mostly work on women?
I do, yeah. When I worked in a clinic for 10 years, and I worked on a lot of police officers and
Mm.
the male police officers. Oh my gosh, they were hilarious. I would be in an area in their abdomen, and they would tell me, like, I had one that would be like, get the fuck out of there.
Oh my god.
They didn't want it. right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So I find that women are just much more open and they're okay with crying with me on a table, whereas the male clients aren't as okay with that.
Totally. That makes
My experience, right? Like I have had a number of really awesome male clients who
yeah.
just let it all out, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Interesting.
interesting. I'll take a step further though, because when all of the chaos in the world happened in 2020, I was actually like banned from my job. So when I had said that, when I said I'd stopped in 2019, it was like, I think I was like, the universe was preparing me or something.
Right. Knew it was coming.
I went back 2020 in January and worked for 6 weeks and was like, oh, you can't work anymore. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So me being the creative that I am, and in tune with my body in that sacral energy, I'm a sacral generator. I started teaching people how to use their own hands on their own abdomens.
Love
and we were
it.
doing it virtually, and I still do that now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Because why would I not share
Yeah.
if, right? Like if someone will help, calm their nervous system with their own hands in their own bed, then let's just do that.
Yeah.
So, and I knew because of my C-section, after my C-section, which was an emergency and very traumatic for me, I started running half marathons because I just needed to like work through my anxiety and get my body back, basically.
Yeah.
Pain from the running on the cement. And so back then, so that was 2013, 2014, I started working on my own C-section scar with my fingers. And it was eliminating my back pain.
I love it.
And so I could feel, and I was like, huh, okay, well, if I can do this on myself, then I can probably teach someone how to do that. So
that's so empowering too, because I think like whenever we say like I need to get if somebody gets like regular body work done, right? They tend to be very reliant on that, whereas people probably don't realize that they could like honestly, okay, I will say everything that we can do as healers, people can do on themselves. Everything.
100%.
Like and it's so fun to see. I personally love seeing my clients. Like the longer that I work with them, the more they're like kind of just doing it on their own, and I'm like sitting here,
like proud mama. You're like,
oh, so good. Like I love getting like messages from clients that I worked with like years ago, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is like what's happening in my life. This is how I'm like, this is how I'm operating now versus like how they used to. And it's just so cool to see people really be able to recognize their power, like their ability to heal themselves. And I there's a tangent that I kind of want to go on, but I don't know if it's going to be relevant. Okay, I'm just going to go anyways. So I see in this industry, I see way too many coaches, healers, massage therapists, like just entrepreneurs out there. uh, I don't know if it's because like it's a really high stress kind of year with it being an election year. Like I don't know what's happening, but there's like a sense of like desperation of like people need a specific type of modality in order to heal. And okay, here's what's coming up for me is that I personally do not resonate with telling people, "Oh, you need this."
right.
Yeah. And really just like letting people discover what they need themselves. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about like this type of modality that you do is um again, it's very intuitively led. Like you're teaching people how to do it on their own. And yeah, I just think that a lot of societal conditioning today is very much so like taking the power away so that people rely on other things, so that we're spending money on things and like we're upkeeping this economy, right? Like there's a whole rabbit hole we could go into with that. But that's just what I thought of whenever you were talking about like teaching other people how to do it on themselves and how empowering that really is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, empowering our clients is what should be the goal, right? And I know in our country, like, we have very different ways in our countries, even though
Yeah.
we're very similar in many ways. But that that word need,
Mm-hmm.
just as you said, it's being thrown around
Yeah, it's overused for sure.
so much because we all have the power, like you said, we all have the power. And I say this to my clients, we all have the power to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
It's we just have to put in the work. Right. And so I think that hold on, I'm gonna cough. Edit.
Yeah.
I think that therapists, healers, coaches are sort of taking advantage of those people who aren't willing to put in the work. Every day is work on our, no matter what that looks like. That could be a breathwork session. That could be drinking your water all day. That could be having enough protein, getting your workout, getting enough sleep, right?
Yeah.
Just that whole relying on someone else to heal me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's something of the past in my brain, and I feel like we're similar that way. We want to empower our clients, and watching them evolve and no longer need us.
Yeah.
Where they just like want a session with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Totally.
the best.
Exactly. I'm thinking of so many of my clients right now that like I can tell when they like look to me for validation or look to me to like guide them, and I'm like, I don't know, what do you think? Like and that I think a lot of them get really frustrated whenever I see that. But rightfully so, because like I mean, I don't know, whenever I first started and my coach would say that to me, I'm like, I don't know, that's why I'm fucking here. Like tell me what to do. Like
And there's a place for that.
Totally. It's just it's
Yeah.
interesting how like it's interesting how that sense of internal guidance and internal wisdom really gets developed the more you do this kind of work. And it gets louder. It's louder than all of the external things. You know, if you continue and if you're like really committed to it, you know.
Yes. Have you ever tried fasting or like cleansing or doing any of those things where you like don't?
No, I haven't.
I'm just going to share a quick aside.
Yes.
I love how my body feels when I'm fasting. And I still like I drink lemon and ginger and B vitamins, and I do like I'm just like flooding my body with like hydration, and I'm just giving my digestive tract a break. I've only gone a max 3 days.
Yeah.
But it's that elimination of things. So not only am I eliminating the food, I'm laying there on the couch with my hands deep into my abdominal fascia, just breathing and meditating. My whole body feels like it's just like this humming, like I'm vibrating. I don't even want a TV on. I don't want a phone. It's like disconnecting from everything.
Yeah.
You realize you actually don't need anything. Ouch. And my mental clarity then, like I freaking just write and write and write and write. And it's just when I'm fasting, I am the most in tune with myself. And I don't know why to share that.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I think everybody has their thing that gets them the most connected, right? Like for like everybody has, and it's not something external. Like, I mean, okay, it's not something like man-made, you know? Because it's
Right.
like if I go out into nature and I like put my feet on the grass, I'm so connected. Um
The ocean. I
the
feel that with
ocean, love the ocean. Yeah. Like anything, that's why I live where I live. It's because I love the ocean, I love the mountains, and I can see both. And um
like,
yeah, but everyone has like something. And some people honestly, like I think some people might not realize that they have something that connects them deeper to themselves and to their power.
And I think because we're so bombarded,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I joke about, like with my daughter, we joke about how we didn't have the internet when we were 12. And she just looks at us like, and I'm like, yeah, like we played outside and we swam in pools and
Yeah.
came home when the sun went down.
Yeah. The amount of time that I spent outside as a child is so crazy to think about. And
Yeah, nature is a huge one. And yeah, it's the disconnecting to reconnect with yourself. I think that's been a theme of mine. I just said it on another podcast too. Um, that like next week I'm taking 2 full days off where I'm just not even nothing.
yeah.
Like I'll be laying on the grass with my book, like
Yes.
cleaning my closet, which is long overdue.
Love that.
Well, like we have to disconnect because we end up losing ourselves.
Yeah. It is so important, I think, to also give yourself some space to actually hear. Because so whenever I think about, whenever you said we're so bombarded, that made me just think of how noisy the world is, how noisy life can be, especially if like you're a parent and you're an entrepreneur. A lot of mama entrepreneurs listen to this podcast. It's like there's so much noise, and I feel like as women, as moms, like we're pulled in so many different directions. It's funny, this past weekend. So this past weekend was my birthday weekend whenever we're recording this. And my husband, for my birthday, he got me like a hotel room just by myself. And so going into this experience of like having a hotel room all by myself, I was like thinking, I was racking my brain of like, what do I do? Like what do I do with myself for and honestly, I get there and I'm just like, I'm just gonna do nothing. And I did
Yeah.
absolutely nothing other than like dance around in my hotel room and put on some music and just like be on my own. And it's so funny, whenever I came back, he was like, you feel different. Like it feels like you're like lighter, and I'm like, yeah, I feel lighter for sure.
Well, kudos to your husband. That's like such a great idea.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like, what do we do? Because we are so used to just constantly doing that we don't just take time to rest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so important, especially your son's still really young. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the demand is high there. So, well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the idea of the simplicity of just yeah, the simple things are the most healing, the most powerful, I always think. And even whenever I'm in session with people, like the simplest question, people are like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Like I'll ask a very, very simple question and they're like, and then it changes the way that they think about something, which is insane. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, one of the biggest things I've taught clients over my, I don't even know where I'm at now, 15 years,
yeah.
16, is how to breathe,
Yeah.
which is what we do every day and don't think about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it's crazy that how we hold our breath and we don't even really realize.
Interesting. Are you like kind of directing or guiding people to, like, as you're doing work on them, like where to breathe and how to breathe during during the session.
Yeah, it's, I'm sure you've heard of diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're, expanding the diaphragm. We're inhaling through our navel to like create that space between the navel and the spine,
Yeah.
which then again like opens up our sacral chakra, our root
Yeah.
chakra. Like we want that energy flow to,
Yeah.
But yeah, over the years, most people, when I guide them through that on the table, they're like, I never breathe like this.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting.
join the club because like
Yeah.
we have to consciously train ourselves how to breathe deeply like that. So
Yeah. Interesting. What would you say is like if somebody was listening to this and they've never had this kind of work done, like, first of all, like, who, obviously I feel like everyone could use this type of work, but who would you say would need it? Like, absolutely need it the most? Not need it, but who would benefit from it?
I would recommend it to
Yeah.
those people who perhaps have chronic headaches, jaw pain, low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, and have gone to physio, chiro, done all of these modalities, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
Not to say that this modality takes everything away, but it does relieve a lot of those types of pain, those common pain points in people for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then the more, because as I said at the top, like our fascia is the glue that holds us together. It like holds us and molds us. But as we work with it, it can and will help to realign our bodies. Whereas like chiropractor, they work on alignment, but it's quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this sustained pressure and holding helps to maintain alignment a little bit longer than those quicker modalities. So it's like, so say someone has chronic headaches or TMJ.
Yeah.
And I find it in their abdomen. It's by expanding the diaphragm, opening up that spine, creating relief up here. Over time, so say they start coming every 2 weeks, eventually it'll go to like once a month and then once every 6 weeks because your body is able to hold. I mean, we also work on like strengthening exercises and stretches, right? Like I always obviously prescribe those types of home care to help encourage and keep that alignment a little bit longer so that your pain stays away a little bit longer after each time. So like I have clients that, it's so funny. I have clients that like have never come back.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, well, that's good. Like,
Yeah, that's what we want.
I miss you. Can I just come and see you for fun? I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's the best.
I miss you too, but you're good.
That is the best.
Yeah, those types of people who are like, have searched and tried all the things and just, haven't tried myofascial release yet. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of therapists in the States actually. Because I trained with John Barnes. He is kind of the myofascial release guru. I think he's in Arizona. So there's a lot of therapists in the US that do it.
Nice. Is there anything else that's on your heart to share, just to kind of like wrap things up and maybe leaving the audience with some wisdom here?
I think what you said earlier about like getting quiet and really knowing, like really listening and knowing. I think that it's like that's my wish for everyone, is to kind of really take time to know yourself and like learn things about your body and what works and what doesn't, because we do all have that inner knowing.
Yeah.
We all have that ability to tap in. And same with my work. It's like when started really teaching others how to really tap into their own bodies. It's like they didn't really need me anymore. Like I held the space. And I used to say, I'm like, you did this. Like,
Yeah.
it was your hands, it was your breathing, it was your fascia, like you did it. And people, like this whole conversation, people are used to just going to a healer or relying on someone else when it's like you really have the power
Yes.
within you. And it's just a matter of tapping in.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so powerful. I think because you could spend thousands of dollars on a healer, a coach, whoever, and get nothing out of it. It's like it's your energy that you also bring to the healing modality. It's not just the person that's performing the service for you. It's also like your energy, your commitment to the work, your dedication to your own healing, your own love for your own body, and yeah.
I think that's why the reasons why I called my first podcast Love Yourselves,
Yeah.
because I felt like a lot of people that I had met and worked with like didn't love their bodies.
Mm.
And I'm like, and maybe I was like that too.
Mhm.
And the career choice I took helped me to really love my cells and care for them, because without them, we're nothing.
We're nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, there's like that's a society component of judgment and all of the things, but it's like gotta love yourselves like no matter what, because life's
Yeah.
too short.
It is.
And, yeah.
Yeah. We probably should do another pod because I feel like there's so many other tangents that we could go on, but to keep this fairly, in the timeline that people won't want to like tune out. Where can people find you and check you out, see what you're up to outside of this? Obviously, I'm gonna throw that podcast link in the show notes too for people.
I think most people find me on Instagram. That's kind of where I hang out the most. It's just _ Sue Ruhe, and Ruhe was with an H. If you're watching the video, you can see my last name how it's spelled. I'm working on my website. I do have a website, SueRuhe.com. It's just a landing page right now of just like connect with me and my services.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. I like work on the back end. I've learned Kajabi. I'm on Wix now. Hey, automations, whatever. It's messy, but I just know that like I'm doing it myself and at my own pace. So,
Right.
so yeah, I'll include those links and then they can connect with me there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show here. I am so glad that we got to have this conversation, and I know people will have takeaways, powerful takeaways from our talk. Okay, so Sue, since this is the Aligned and Well podcast, I have to ask, what does it mean for you to be aligned and well?
Just for the listeners to know, last week we had this recording scheduled.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have internet. Like there was trucks on my street. It was a full moon. I was like, Shawne, I'm gonna try to use my phone and hotspot and just bought it. Didn't work. I was like choppy. Anyways, we learned a tech lesson that week. But
Yes.
I remember I was like, she's gonna ask me this question, and I don't feel aligned and well right now. That was last week. So I'm so glad we're doing it now. And
After you had some time to
not had a week to like work it all out. Right now, the version that exists right now, the 41-year-old on this, in this body, I feel the most aligned and well when I am working with people who are so open and vulnerable and are just allowing the experience to happen. So that's how much I love my job. That I'll never give it up. I'll be this like 90-year-old lady with hands in abdominal.
Love that.
So that's how when I feel aligned and well. And then in the other components of my career and in my home life, it is the energy of joy. So editing podcasts brings me joy. I love it. I love sitting, listening. I'm privy to all these conversations before they go out into the internet world. I'm there. When I'm golfing with my family and we're laughing and hitting great shots and celebrating each other, and just in that joy, that's when I'm aligned and well. And saying yes to the things that light me up and saying no to the things that don't.
Yeah. Oh, amen to that.
I'm just like fully in that right now. So, yeah.
Oh, that is a huge component of being in alignment is learning how to do that, learning how to say yes to things that like light you up and that you're really passionate about and that actually like fuel the fire in your heart, and then learning how to say no to the things that don't. So I love that. Oh, awesome. Okay. Thank you again so much, Sue, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This conversation. Yes. And if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, I would love it if you would join the email list. And I send out reminders every single time one of these episodes drops. And I would also love to hear from you guys. If you have any takeaways from this episode, if you have any topics that you want me to cover in the future, feel free to email me or DM me on social. And I will leave all of Sue's links in the show notes for all of you too. All right. Bye, everyone.